Thank you very much. This is co-authored work with Urian Hendricks from Tilburg University, a PhD student there, and Marcel Metzner, who's graduated from Oxford and is now a practitioner in London. So we're looking at TCFD-related climate disclosures and examining whether they're associated with market metrics and specifically market values and bid-ask spreads. And so I look at TCFD information. Well, as we know, the TCFD framework is the workhorse climate-related framework that underlies a lot of what's coming out in terms of what, and that's why we call it early evidence, because we think we're getting an early peek essentially at the global disclosures that are coming out around the world under different either reporting regulations or standards. So notably the TCFD underlies the ISSB S2, it underlies the Canadian Sustainability Standards Board draft climate standard. It underlies the SEC regulations. California report underlies does not mean that they have wholly incorporated it, and in fact the ISSB goes some steps further and improves upon it. As well as quite a few and a growing number of regulatory mandates around the world where there are quite a few countries that are now basically saying for publicly traded companies you must report TCFD compliant information. And so that's why we're looking at TCFD reporting disclosures. And the disclosures that we're looking at during the time period of our sample are voluntary. It's before any, obviously the ISSB hasn't been mandated. It's in the process of that, I guess, in Singapore. But so these are voluntary disclosures, and there's the obvious caveat of what we're finding in a voluntary context may differ, of course, from what we might find once these become mandatory and more standardized. Okay, thank you. So the data that we're using comes from the CDP. As far as we're aware, this is the only global repository of TCFD compliant information. Just a caveat for anybody who actually tries to use this data, it is messy, it is replete with errors, it cannot be used as is. We spent an extensive amount of time reviewing and cleansing and trying to address the problematic observations in this data set. So if anything comes from the mandates that we're looking forward to under the ISSB and other regulations, it may be that we get a standardized database that people can actually pick up and use in quantitative analyses without the work that we've done. Our data covers 2018 to 2022, essentially the inception of TCFD reporting until the end of the data that was available when we did our work. So 17,000 plus firm-year observations, 5,000 firms from 26 countries. We're focusing on companies in advanced economies. Getting to the results. So we are going to run, so we're looking at whether physical risks, transition risks, climate-related opportunities, and the financial impact, estimates of the financial impacts of risks and opportunities, all disclosed by the company, are related to market values and bid-ask spreads, respectively. There's a lot of dispute in the literature about what the right specification is here, whether we scale, whether we take a log, because these are market value regressions, whether we use country fixed effects, whether we use country fitted factors. There's a whole array of different possibilities. What we've done is basically to run as many specifications as we could envision. And what you see here are coefficient plots. So in other words, we don't want to draw inferences from one or two regressions because other specifications may lead to different conclusions. And so the coefficient plots, if they include, if those confidence intervals for the coefficient plots includes 0, then they're insignificant. And so the punchline here is that physical risks are not significant, not reliably associated with market values or bid-ask spreads. Transition risks are associated with market values, but not with bid-ask spreads. Climate opportunities, not significant in any of these regressions. Financial impacts, also not significant. There are a couple of notable exceptions, so take heart, there is something here in TCFD-related reporting. If we interact the financial impact estimates with an indicator for where the SASB says that these climate issues are going to be material, then that is negatively associated with market values and with bid-ask spreads. If we use that indicator for opportunities, it is negatively associated with bid-ask spreads. So where it's supposed to be important, it is starting to show up in market values or in bid-ask spreads. So the implications are we're asking for a lot of data, It's not clear that investors are making use of that data even where it's available.